Hello, I'm Jo, and welcome to the Midlife Entrepreneur Podcast, a new show that's all about building a business in midlife. This week, I'm joined by Priya Downes, founder and CEO of Nudea, a B Corp Certified underwear and sleepwear brand made from natural and recycled materials. Priya's passion for ethical responsibility started way before Nudea was born. She began her career at the World Bank, where she led pioneering initiatives in fair trade fashion and environmental responsibility, work that earned her recognition from the Washington Post as a trailblazer. As her career progressed, she moved from finance to luxury brands, taking up strategic roles within Chanel and then Burberry, where she worked under the leadership of powerhouse team Angela Ahrendts and Christopher Bailey. But it wasn't until the birth of her second child, she has 3 children altogether, that she started becoming interested in underwear. Why are we so thoughtful about what we wear on the outside, she thought, but not the layers closest to our skin? The answer led to Nudea, a brand built on purpose, perfect fit, and planet-kind practices. Priya brings depth, heart, and innovation to everything she does, and I can't wait to find out more. Priya, welcome to the Midlife Entrepreneur.
Thank you for having me.
Why underwear? Why was it underwear that became the particular interest for you?
I think it was really when I was in between children and I looked at my underwear drawer and it was very sorry. I had about 25 bras I never wore. A lot my husband bought me and they were just so uncomfortable. And I just thought, gosh, I would never wear these. And I didn't know what bra size I was. I had been breastfeeding. I felt like really, really low about myself. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go and get fitted. And yet I could see that the bras I had didn't fit me. I think I had one bra I wore literally every day that was on its last threads. And it really got me thinking about the fact that I really don't spend any time at that point. I'd never really spent any time thinking about my underwear. Yet it made so much of a difference to my outerwear. I struggled with strapless tops. I struggled with finding bras that worked well with dresses or certain fabrics. But it was always something that I didn't feel like it was always a need to shop rather than a love to shop. And somebody who was working in fashion, who had loved clothes, had a wardrobe full of great trench coats from my time at Burberry. And I spent so much time thinking about my outerwear, but not about what I was wearing underneath. And I just felt this felt really wrong. And when I asked my friends about where can I get a decent bra, they all felt the same. And they were like, I actually go to M&S, but I don't love it. And I mean, everyone sort of said, I have this brand, but I don't love them. There wasn't this kind of standout brand that everybody was like, yes, they're brilliant. And it felt to me like that was a perfect opportunity. Of course, we need to start something. There's got to be a better brand where you can get a really nice, decent bra that fits you, you feel comfortable in, makes you feel good. You don't necessarily have to go and get fitted in a fitting room when you're at your lowest point. There must be a better way to shop. There must be a better brand that can serve that modern woman who's so used to clicking a button and getting a Deliveroo, getting an Uber. Why is bra shopping so difficult?
It is difficult because you make a really good point. I think when you've had a baby, the last thing you want to do is go in to any of those changing rooms, take your clothes off, and somebody tell you what your size you are. And I think your size changes so much, doesn't it, over the period of pregnancy to obviously once you're feeding, and then beyond that you change again. I don't think any of us look in the mirror and think, oh yeah, I look great, I feel great.
When I started the brand, I actually spent about a year doing lots and lots of customer research, which I'd recommend anybody starting a business before you start to put real money and real investment into it, that you do a bit of market research. And that's a sensible thing to do. And that's exactly what I did. So I recruited these workshops of women and I said, look, we'll give you a free fitting and a voucher for when we launch the brand, and you can get a free bra from us. So we'd appreciate your time. And I recruited about 1,000 women this way across the country, which was great. And because it just shows a number of people that just want to get fitted. And it was literally...
How did you do that out of interest?
I ran some Facebook ads and just picked like local venues. So like a local town hall. I did a couple of these workshops in friends' homes and got them to invite friends as well. I did one in a pub where I was able to get a secure room.
Yeah.
So basically brought the fitting to like local communities. And I think that really helped because particularly in certain parts of the country, like I remember we went up to Leeds, people don't have a Marks and Spencer's up the road. They have to go to their nearest town. A lot of people don't live close to their town. So accessibility is also an issue. And we had a lot of women who brought their daughters in and they were like, I can't get my teenage daughter for love or money to go and get fitted. And I'm like, great. So we were like, that's better. The more people we can get, brilliant. And the one thing that they all universally said was that many of them hadn't been fitted in over 5 years. A lot of them hadn't been fitted since they were teenagers. And these are like older women. Was that the biggest problem was that they were getting fitted by people that were selling to them.
Yeah.
And the intimidation of going into I just want to know what my bra size is and then I can go and shop in my own way. Whereas when you go into a fit, it's a service that comes at a price, right? So a lot of people end up feeling not bullied, but feel pressured to buy something they're not really that happy with. And that was the biggest issue, really, was that people just didn't feel free to just be able to get their size and use that on their own terms. And that's what I realised when we were running those workshops, that it wasn't just the need of people wanting that service. They wanted to have it, which was in a way that was much more democratic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I wanted to change. And that's what we've developed our own fit tape, for example, which is something that we've trademarked and nobody else has. And it makes it really easy for women to measure themselves at home. And I think that in itself, for me, even if we don't even sell a bra, if we can change somebody's life by being able to give them that accessibility, I think that's an amazing achievement for me.
I love that. I think that you're right. I think there is definitely a pressure when you go into one of those places or department stores that once you're in the room, once they're doing your size, they're telling you your size, then you feel like, oh, now I've got to buy something. I didn't really want to. I just wanted to know whether any of my bras in my drawer, first of all, any of them are the right size.
Yeah.
And then secondly, that I now know going forward what my size is so I can shop more effectively.
Yeah. And I know, and also shop online if you want to, which I think is, for a lot of women, it is a big barrier to conversion because you don't know what your size is. You don't know what size you are in that brand. You want to be able to do that in the comfort of your home, right?
Yeah. And had you already envisaged that your brand would be online?
Yeah, because it was designed to be a brand for modern women and modern women shop online. And so whilst we do have physical stockists, and I do think building a bra business, you're always going to need physical touch points. People always want to touch and feel product. And there's always going to be a section of people that we can't tap online. And I think it's important not to forget about them. Whilst Nudea is being built like in a very omni-channel way, I think online will always be one of our biggest channels and has been since the beginning.
Yeah. And how much of a challenge was photography and communicating the imagery? I always think with underwear, it's so difficult because I look on Marks and Spencer's or wherever, because you've mentioned them, and you look at all these, and I know they're trying to show models with different sizes and stuff. They often, or in my day, you'd see a model wearing a bra, model is 32B. And you're like, oh, that bra looks fabulous on a 32B. I'll order it in my 32D. And then you get it and you're like, oh, okay, it looks a bit more frumpy now. But all the strap size changes, but they don't tell you that.
Yeah, of course they don't. Yeah. And I think this is the other thing, I think. When I launched a brand in 2019, now obviously a lot of brands are embracing diversity, etc. But back in 2019, it still very much was this airbrushed, perfect body, 32D actually, standard, very slim, Victoria's Angel type of look.
Yeah.
And you're right. A lot of people, when they get bras, and the average woman in the UK is a 34D.
Is she?
And
Oh, I'm average, so I knew I was always average.
Yeah, and D's actually not that big, right?
No.
And I think there's this perception that D cup is big, but it's not. And most of the bras we sell are F+.
I think you're selling F+ because you're actually getting them to measure themselves properly, because I think there's the other part of it.
I think that's probably
so many people
true.
walk around quoting the wrong size.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of vanity sizing going
Yeah.
on. People going, I want to be a B cup, so I'm going to squeeze my double Ds into a B cup. And you're like, no, you don't need to do that. And I think there's this thing, and I think it's just been this kind of naughties thing that's just rolled into 2019, that I think people just been conditioned to see these models this way. And bra shopping was just always a headache for people online because you couldn't see it on someone that actually looked like you and represented real women. And now obviously that things have changed, but certainly back then it wasn't there. So when we initially launched, we went quite bold. We didn't have budgets to photograph everything on 5 different models, but I really wanted to embrace that and say, look, let's have 2 different models. Let's have one model that's busty and represents something a bit more realistic for customers who are not a 32B. And I think that it perhaps came across quite shocking as a new brand. They were like, oh, hang on, I'm not used to this. And as we subsequently realised that underwear marketing is actually I was very naive to it. I'm not a marketer, but coming into it, I had no idea that Facebook banned ads on underwear, and the bigger the bodies, it's all algorithms. The algorithms work on flesh to clothing ratio, right?
Right.
So if you're a bigger model, you're more likely to have your ad banned, and you're just a bit like, this is crazy. This is why we have this bias.
I know about that.
And yeah, I wouldn't have either going into it. You just learn all these things. You're just like, this is crazy. But yeah, I think that sort of communication of diversity, I think nobody can fault us for that. We came on the scene quite bold on that aspect, and we've remained quite true to always portraying things on as many models as we possibly can, both racially and also body shapes. And as much as we can, we do try to photograph things on multiple models so that as a shopper, you can see what it would look like on you in some way or the other. What I would love with investment of time and money is to be able to have very slick functionality on our website where you can literally flick through 5 different models and be able to say, okay, I'm a 32D, here's a model for me. I'm a 40 double D, here's a model for me. And I think we're working our way up to that. And we've moved along since. And so we're not quite where we were at the beginning, where it was just literally 2 models and that's it. We are a little bit further ahead, but I think that would be the dream.
It sounds pretty complicated though, actually.
It is.
Because shooting a T-shirt or a dress, yes, you can do it with different size models, but really at the end of the day, most people are quite confident about what a certain dress might look on them.
Yes.
Generally. I think with underwear, it's so much more technical. It's so much more complicated because also I wonder whether we really see ourselves in the way that we are.
Yes.
Most people don't really want to look at themselves that much, not without any clothes on.
Yeah.
We're not that comfortable.
And I think that's why there is a balance to be had. I think that if you're used to seeing airbrush models and then suddenly you put somebody that is a lot more real, and I wouldn't say warts and all, when you're talking about people who have maybe a little tattoo, and people are not used to seeing that.
Or a stretch mark.
Or a stretch mark. Yeah. And people are like, oh. And we definitely had mixed reactions. Some people were like, they love it. They're like, we love the fact that you're showing everything and not airbrushing things. And then other people were like, well, I don't know if I want to see myself like that. And so and I think we've had to evolve a lot to be like, to get it right. And we haven't always got it right. And picking models is still the hardest thing we have to do when it comes to marketing, because
you're trying to sell products.
Well, exactly. They've got to be like, they've got to be pretty, but at the same time, girl next door, but also aspirational, but real. So you're adding all these extra things. You're just like, okay. And it becomes quite difficult actually to get the balance right. And I have to say, we've got a brilliant team on the marketing side who do an amazing job of looking at models. And we've now got a rhythm with it. I think we know the right models that work for us, and to get the balance right between aspiration and real, and also to make sure we do tick the boxes and we do make sure that we are thinking about a customer and how they want to be able to see a bra on somebody that looks like them, or what they aspire to look like, should I say. And that means thinking about different sizes. That does mean thinking about different skin tones. It does because with your underwear, certain people, not everybody suits a nude. Right?
No, exactly.
And a lot of bras out there are a basic nude. And that's another thing to address, right?
Yes, because there are many versions of nude.
Exactly. As Rihanna taught us with her makeup brand.
Yeah.
So you need to get the balance right.
I suppose when you're younger, there's always that challenge that, it didn't make me look like that, so therefore the product's not very good.
Yes.
And that's a challenge for you that you're always working against with retail. When you started and you had this idea and you've done all this research and stuff, how tight was your team?
Well, I started the brand with a designer, so there was 2 of us, and I think we leaned on each other. And I think that would I have started the brand if I didn't have someone next to me egging me on and working together? I don't know, actually, looking back on it, because I speak to a lot of founders who've come in with partners and then have fallen out, and they were like, I just wish I was a single founder and I'd gone into this myself. And I don't know if I would have done it on my own, but ultimately I have ended up on my own, which is absolutely fine. And I think in some ways that autonomy is brilliant.
Yeah.
But I think that it was great to have someone there who could bring to the table and fill the gaps that I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a lingerie designer. I don't know that market. And as I learnt along the way that, I thought I knew a lot about fashion and production and materials, but it's very different in lingerie. And so it's a whole new world when it comes to manufacturing, and a whole new world when it comes to design and product development, because there's a lot of engineering involved. And Supply chains are complicated because you've got to think about 20 components, not just a t-shirt with one fabric. So as I learned, I was like, I would never have been able to know that without having someone there to be able to fill those gaps. So I think it was great to be able to go into it with someone. And then we started to bring in people because we knew we needed marketing expertise, the areas that we really had no idea about. And so we were quite tight though. And it was only me and the designer who were on it full time. And then we brought in a freelance marketer for 2 or 3 days a week and a junior. And that was it, really. That was what the team was for the first year.
And how long did it take you from idea to launching the websites, going live with the product?
It took about 18 months.
Wow.
So we spent that 18 months doing all that research.
Mm-hmm.
We actually ran a pilot website because, again, we were trying to be cautious and be like, look, let's do this gradually. So let's at least get to a point where we feel this is a go project. Yeah. So we did all that. We did all those workshops and said, let's see, are we actually filling a need? Tick. What do we need to be thinking about when building our collections? What is going to make us different? What kind of prices do people want to pay? Getting all the fundamental questions like ticked off. And then when we knew it was a go, effectively, we're like, let's run a bit of a pilot. So we had like a test website where we effectively did a lot more data testing. What we did was we launched like a quiz and a survey, and we said, let's just get as many people filling in the survey, maybe show them some images about what they like, what they don't like. And that also would help us. So we built it very gradually. And for us, I think it was the right way to do it in terms of being cautious. And at that point, it was always like, if this doesn't work, we'll pull the plug. And we haven't invested too much. But at least we know that we've done the research.
Because I was just interested, because you'd been in corporate business or fashion. So had you already decided to leave, or had you been on maternity and not gone back, or how had it worked out? What I'm asking basically, or trying to get to, did you have a pressure to make it work?
No, I didn't. Not at all. I've been working for a re-startup of a fashion brand. And when I left Burberry, I knew I wanted to start something on my own at some point. Yeah. But I guess I just still had this kind of corporate devil on my shoulder or monkey on my shoulder saying, well, no, you've got to do it cautiously. Like, you've got to be you can't just jump into starting a business. Like, oh, that's a bit reckless. What if it doesn't work? What about the gap on your CV? And so I was like, let me do it. Let me go and work for a smaller brand. Let's start there. Yeah. So I went to work for a startup effectively, and I had quite a big role there, and it was the place I learned a hell of a lot. So I think it was definitely worth, I thank a lot of the mistakes I could have made down to the fact that at least I had that experience. But I think, unfortunately, like a lot of startups, they were struggling. And so I ended up having to leave a lot earlier than I expected. And I was in this situation where I was like, I don't have a job. Yeah. I've just left.
But that's
something.
The best motivation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a job. I'm thinking about my next move. And quite honestly, I don't know if I want to go back to working for a corporate company. I've taken the plunge. So
did you have kids at that point?
No, I had 2 kids and was thinking about a third. So I was in between kids.
So you're in that whole stage of life that we all get to, where you're like, how do I make all this work together?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's what led me to build it quite cautiously. And I was like, I want to make sure that I'm filling a need that's really there, not just building something because I've got an ego and that's what I want, right? Yeah. And I think that was probably quite a smart thing to do.
It sounds really sensible. But also you had the benefit of having had a career in those huge companies. So you had all that experience. Then you'd worked at a startup in the nuts and bolts, watching and observing. And it wasn't your money, but you were obviously contributing a lot to the success of those businesses, and they are really hard. So that would have been like an education. And then you were able to take all that on with you into this next phase. It's so fascinating.
It is, and I think I've got an MBA, and I don't think I honestly had one of the best years of my life on my MBA program, but nothing quite teaches you the same as like being in the thick of a business. And certainly what I've learned in the last 6 years or 6 years since we launched the business has been phenomenal, like probably the most learning I've ever had.
What's the biggest learning curve?
I think just being chief problem solver. Right? You have to be prepared to think quickly, act quickly, and really think from your gut. Like, half the decisions I've made haven't come from up here. They've just come from your gut. You just have to go, we just have to do it. And you just have to trust that it's either going to work or not work. That's the biggest learning, is I think trusting your gut. And I think not being afraid to fail. When you're in a corporate world, I'm not saying you're punished for your mistakes, but I think mistakes.
You are punished for your mistakes.
Yeah, a lot of times you can be. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, it's okay if you make a mistake and as long as you learn from it. But really, you don't want to be making mistakes.
No.
Whereas I think starts full of mistakes, and you have to make them, because every decision you make, if it comes from your gut, isn't going to be right.
No.
And I think you have to be prepared to be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's also a big learning. Like, you have to be able to be humble enough to go, I got that wrong. Let's move on.
Yeah. Well, what did I learn from that?
And what did I learn from that? And not reflect too much.
I love that about business, running your own business. I've been building something for a while, and I've been constantly held back by that fear. And as soon as I was able to be more comfortable with that didn't work. Oh, okay, hilarious. But what did I learn about that? And then move on. Then that's been a really liberating moment.
Yeah. I remember I've lived in America for a while when I was working at the World Bank. And one of the things I really took away from that is that their ecosystem is very much built for that. They celebrate failure, which is why they are where they are in terms of business and venture capital and all of that. They're just more willing to take risk, and they're not afraid of that. Whereas I think that we're catching up, but certainly Europe and the UK just traditionally hasn't been that. So all of us entrepreneurs are a bit later in life who've grown up. I think the next generation are benefiting massively. Our generation, certainly it's ingrained in us. So it's a bit like failure is a bad thing, and you can't have a hole in your CV because that shows, what have you been doing? You didn't.
That's so true.
And,
oh my God,
I
have these conversations all the time with people. I'm like, do not worry to be out of work. You'll be fine.
Exactly. And I think that it's just because it's been ingrained in us so much. Then
there's so much shame.
There's a lot of shame attached to failure. But I think now it's changing a little bit.
What I notice about the younger guys, certainly the more entrepreneurial minded kids who are maybe using social media as their kind of side hustle or whatever it is, that stuff comes and goes so quickly.
Yes.
And so they are already in the mindset of, we'll just move on, do something else, move on, do something else. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I think we older generation, we need to take that on board and say, like, it's okay, guys. It's okay. We can move on. And you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can.
Like, it's not too late to kind of go, yep, I'm ready to do that. And
do you think you would have started a business straight out of university and not having had any of the kind of career that you've had?
Strangely enough, like, having done what I've done, I go back and just think, what took me so long? I do think that I had this element of I had to play safe, and it goes back to this failure thing. Was that, like, I'm not going to start a business if I don't know the industry. Come on. And actually, I didn't know anything. Like, I probably knew 10% of what I needed to know. So what was the point of me even knowing that? I might as well have just known nothing and just gone into it. So it does make me think a little bit of, why didn't I start 10 years before? Like, why did I need to?
It's considered risk.
Yeah, it was considered risk.
You think
and
about
it goes
our
back.
parents and the way we were brought up and educated. Yeah. To go out and go, what are you going to do? Oh, I think I'm just going to start something myself. Don't do that. What's your pension? That would have been quite shocking.
And that's what held me back.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I know it's very cliche to thank partners, but my husband works in VC and he's had a long career working in venture capital. And so I think he was very used to investing in entrepreneurs and young businesses. And I remember having a conversation with him in the pub when I was like thinking about starting Nudea. And I said, I've registered the company, but I've also registered my own consulting company because I'm going to have a bit of income on the side. And he was like, whoa, what are you doing? And I'm like, he's like, if you're going to do this, just do it. What are you afraid of? And he said, if you're going to start a business and you want it to succeed, you're better off just focus on it on 100%. I'm like, what about my income? What about the hole in my CV? What about not being in the market? Do you really care about that? And I think it took me a long time psychologically to go, you're right. Like, I need to just forget about that. If this is what I want to do, just go for it. And if it fails, and it's easier said than done. Like, it really is easier said than done, especially when you have had a long career and you're so used to having structure and fall back and going, and suddenly you're going, oh, actually, yeah, I'm going into the unknown and this may not work out, right? And still today, like 6 years, we're doing well and we're still around and we're growing and we're in a good place, but it can fail and anything can happen. And I think you have to be ready to fail wherever you are,
or ready to iterate. I think that's
or pivot.
So have you had moments where you set a slightly different direction or changed something because you had some feedback or data or sales that were leading you that way?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I think we've never pivoted away from our core business of selling bras. I think that's something that remains, and I'm pleased to say that's still a need, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm not sure that if the world changed and people start wearing bras, I don't know how much we would pivot from our core business, but ultimately, yes. I mean, we've changed strategy a couple of times on terms of like wholesale versus online. And I think also the pandemic, we were very lucky at the very beginning that I started the brand end of 2019, and then 6 months later everybody was at home wanting comfortable bras, couldn't go out and get fitted. Hey presto, we were the brand of the moment in COVID. And so online for us, we had this amazing tailwind of a first year. But then coming out of COVID, everybody was like, no, we want to shop in person. And we were like, we don't have a store. What are we going to do here? We had to pivot the business and look a little bit more about, okay, how do we get ourselves out there physically? And that involved a lot of pop-ups, which is hard work, but also getting into retail stores and finding retail partners. And
how was that? Did you have somebody to advise you? Or how did you?
The first retail partner actually came to us, which was John Lewis. And John Lewis said, look, we're trying to build out new brands and we'd love to offer like new exciting brands and we'd love you to join us. It was online only at the time. And we're honestly, they've been a great partner and they're a great fit. And initially I was very reluctant. I was like, I don't know, actually, like, I spent my whole time at Burberry trying to get rid of wholesale accounts. Do I really want wholesale? I've got to give the margin. It's complicated. And I remember my team going, this is John Lewis.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
An amazing partner.
An amazing partner. And there's such a great fit in terms of price point, in terms of customer.
So trusted.
And so trusted. Yeah. And I picked up the phone. I was like, yep, actually, we'll do it. Yeah, thank you. And our business with them has grown phenomenally. And they're now a quarter of our sales, which also slightly scares me a bit. They've been brilliant with us and we've grown with them. But then the other stockists we did through trade shows, we've gained through agents that we've worked with in the past, sales agents. Yeah, it's a tough wholesale environment, to be honest, because our high street's changed a lot in the last sort of 5 years. You've got the likes of Topshop gone, maybe coming back.
Yeah.
You've got House of Fraser, got all these kind of high street staples. They've struggled.
Plus you've got the massive growth of these sort of Sheins and
absolutely
those type of businesses which we didn't have.
We didn't have before. And I think that there's a lot of small brands chasing fewer and fewer bigger department stores. They were burnt in COVID with a lot of stock. A lot of them are not making a lot of money. And so they don't have a lot of capital to sit there and go, yeah, we'll take you on board.
Yeah.
So I think we tried that, and now I think we're trying to focus back on online again. So we've definitely steered the ship. It's been, I don't think the last 5 years I've ever experienced in retail in terms of the economy, in terms of the pandemic, and then now I don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs, but certainly we're living in kind of a time where consumer is just difficult. And that's meant a lot of regrouping, rethinking things, like where is the growth?
And have you found that you've had to spend more and more in digital marketing to get visibility? Is that true, or are there other ways of doing that?
I think that we've had to, I think you do, right? There's a lot of brands out there. Instagram is very saturated. Digital channels are quite saturated and have got more expensive as more and more brands come into the world. You have to advertise. There's no other way. Right. And so in order to grow, you're going to have to spend money on digital marketing. In our period of going after retailers, we cut back on digital. We said, let's just focus on growing awareness through our retail partners, leveraging our retail partners to build new customers and get new customers. And let's really cut back on digital spend and not spend so much focus online because it's expensive. We've now turned again. We've gone back to going, let's spend a bit more on online. Do you think it's hard? I don't think there's a right answer, to be honest. I think
it's hard because there's so little transparency in that kind of metaverse.
It is, really, and it changes so much. The cookies changed everything 3 years ago. Meta have just announced that the way they're going to vet content has changed. So you're also fighting a world where the algorithms are changing and that things like your ads could be screened and then suddenly tomorrow the bots change and it's not a bot anymore, it's a human. Or now it's a bot again. Like you're constantly fighting these platforms.
And you never had TikTok Shop to deal with either.
No, and that's something that we're now looking at doing, and now we're looking at other channels, and we've done a lot. I think one of the great things for us, which is consistent, is PR. Yeah, I know PR is also changing, but certainly something like underwear, women want to feel like they can trust it, right? It's not a clickbaity, I buy from an ad, try for product. Nobody says, I love your bra, where'd you get it from? No. The same way they do with a jacket or a nice coat, right? So ultimately it relies on me positively recommending you a brand. And that means there's a lot of trust, right? People want to feel like they go into a brand that isn't a Shein, isn't just going to sell me like a crappy bra, but also
made in bad places.
In a bad place, but also like a brand that's actually that says what it's going to do, like fits and all of that kind of stuff is good quality.
And super comfortable. By the way, I'm wearing one of your bras today.
Amazing. Thank you, Jo.
It is my most comfortable bra.
I'm so pleased to hear.
Yeah,
Amazing.
no, it's fabulous. And in the quality, and I'm not very good at, I am not a hand washer of underwear, I'm sorry to say, but I just chuck it in the washing machine. It's been amazing.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
I know you
do you have the wash bag?
I have a wash bag,
Good.
but I always forget to use it.
Okay.
I'm totally being honest here because I'm just a busy mom who's just constantly got the washing machine running. And I just want things that are reliable, comfortable, and that will be able to go through the trials of the washing machine. I do. When I'm feeling like I'm just doing things for me, I put things in wash bags and it's all very lovely. But in all honesty, no, it's been great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. You're saying everything I want to hear.
I wouldn't have said anything if it didn't work very well. I would have not brought it up. But I am honestly saying that, listeners, it's a very comfortable bra. Priya kindly sent me a bra and knickers and PJs.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They are the lightest, gorgeous. What's it made out of? Linen?
Organic cotton.
Cotton.
Yeah.
Okay. So light, so comfortable, and the way that you cut them is appropriately cut so I can walk around. I really like them. They're really comfortable.
And this is exactly why with sleepwear, that was a bit of an accident, to be honest. And this is another pivot was I never intended to move into new categories as early as we did. We ended up launching sleepwear 2 years into the business, and it really came down to the complications with underwear manufacturing. And we were in between factories. And because of our size range, you've got to commit to a lot of minimums. It takes a long time to get underwear, like from design, concept to market.
So you were filling a financial gap.
Was filling a financial gap. But also, I think we realised that we needed a gifting proposition. We'd always been a brand that was self-gifting, all about. And so when it came to Christmas, we were going to these Christmas shows and we're like,
we're missing out.
We're missing out. What are we going to sell? And so we said, let's trial a capsule sleepwear range. And I got one of my old Burberry friend designers to design. I said to her, look, I want to do sleepwear, but I want to do it in a unique way that's a little bit more fashion forward, a little bit more all year round. And the shapes are a little bit more thoughtful in terms of you can put a shirt on and you can answer the door in it, answer the door to someone.
I thought this would be a brilliant set to wear on holiday.
Exactly. And you can wear it on the beach. And so the choice of fabric was very considered for that reason. And we knew it had to hit all the sustainable points that built the brand. And the fact that we're not a let's create cashmere for Christmas pajama brand, we wanted all the products that we create are seasonless, that you can wear them whether it's winter, whether it's summer. And we wanted our sleepwear to reflect that. To your point about the sort of bed to beach, it was important that we created like the sleepwear range that was you can wear it to bed, but also in the summer, you can wear it when it's hot. And the colour choices obviously, again, reflect that. We don't do heart prints or anything like that for Valentine's because that's not us. We want to create something that people wear all the time. Our sleepwear range really just hit that spot. I think it was something that really, when we launched it, it was this capsule, but it did so well. And in the end, it's now something like 50% of our business for John Lewis. We sell more than that than bras. So
I like the embroidered branding.
Yes. And again, that was a bit of an iteration. We used to have at the front, we moved it to the back. And that's what happens with product. Like you always iterate, don't you? But I think it really hit that spot. And I feel like we ended up, it's now become a mainstay for us, really, in terms of category, and it's growing. And now I can't just call us an underwear brand anymore. We're a sleepwear brand. And potentially, who knows what else is going to come next. And we are definitely thinking about new categories. But certainly, sleepwear has become a really important sales driver.
It is a gorgeous gift as well. I love getting sleepwear. I just think it's such a lovely thing to get at the end of the day and put on something you actually feel quite good in.
Yes. I think...
Because I spent years in old T-shirts or whatever. I haven't grown up if I'm wearing that. And this makes me feel like I can waft around the house and I feel quite chic.
Yes, exactly. And I think also people are really conscious now of sleep quality and like natural fabrics versus synthetic fabrics.
As you get older.
And exactly as you get older, you're suffering from night sweats or hormonal changes, and getting a good night's sleep means actually wearing something that's breathable.
Yeah.
And I think more and more awareness is coming out now about that. So people are conscious about the fabrics that they wear. And I think things like 100% organic cotton are naturally going to hit that spot, right?
Absolutely. What gives you strength? You've got 3 children. You're running this business, growing this business. I can tell that you're very energetic in the way you speak. Where do you get your strength from?
I think my family and my kids. I always think about whether Nudea survives me or I survive Nudea or whatever, but I just think about the legacy I leave for them. And I want them to be proud and feel that I've left something in my history of being around. And I think that does keep me going every day, because I just go, I'm doing this because I want to do something bigger than myself and something that actually makes a difference to people and that my kids can look back and go, oh, I'm proud of my mom. And I think particularly when you're doing like what we're doing, where we're helping women get great bras that fit them, and often people that really struggle with bras, or people who've never been able to get fitted, and you have customers that write to you and say, oh, you've changed my life, or I've never been able to get fitted. Thank you for inventing this tape. And you just go, that's all I need. Like to keep going, because you just go, I've helped to create something that's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference to the energy that you even if you have the hardest day, you go, what, it's still worth doing.
Yeah. And I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the legacy thing of the kids is so interesting. A few people have said the same thing, is that I wanted to do something that my children would be proud of.
Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing... Our children will never do what we tell them to do in that sense. Certainly, I've got older teenagers. They don't want to hear it, but they will see what you're doing. And I think that's really powerful for their future.
It is. And I think particularly because it's all recorded now digitally, right? My kids are a bit young, so they don't fully understand what I do. But I think hopefully one day they can look back and go, oh my gosh,
it's business.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
Exactly. It's business. And they may not inherit it, and they may not have any interest in getting involved. I'm not building it necessarily for them, but I think it's interesting for me. I feel like it's quite powerful for them to look back and go, my mom did that.
Yeah.
And you've got this digital footprint that your kids can look back on. And which I think is amazing.
It is. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. So we have a tradition on the show where we leave a little bit more insight at the end of the show. It's called the 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
And I will put them in the show notes, your 3, 2, 1s. Well, you've given us so much to think about.
Yeah.
And your energy and what motivates you to get up and do this and what inspired you to do this it's been brilliant to listen to. So thank you for that. So let's just move on to that bit for the final part of the show. So 3 things you've invested in that have been worth every penny. And it doesn't just have to be in your business. It could be to do with your business or to do with you.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is childcare. There's this misconception around, I'll start my own business, I can manage my time, I can look after the kids, I'll have more time for them, and I can juggle. And you really can't. And I think particularly the way I'm building my business, I've got investors, and it definitely it requires more than a full-time job, right? So you need to have a support system, and you want to be there for your kids when you can be fully happy and fully engaged, not juggling all these things. When I had my 3rd baby in COVID, and literally I was pregnant when I launched the business.
Wow.
She was born in the middle of COVID, and I was so grateful that I had childcare through that period, because I wouldn't have been able to have done what I've done, particularly with homeschooling and all of that kind of stuff at that time. But even beyond that.
Yeah.
So I think childcare is definitely one of them. Yeah. Second, I think it's investing in myself in terms of I invested in the business. I'm the biggest shareholder of my business, and I've put in my own money into my business, and I'm just as in it as my shareholders are, right? And I think that they back me because I back myself. And I think that's really important, is that if you, and I understand that not everybody has the means to, and I was very lucky that I had the financial means to put into my business and invest in my own business, but obviously to an extent. But I think that you've got to invest in yourself. If you don't put your own money into it, if you have it, that is, then no one else will. Yeah. So I think it's important to invest if you believe in it and you invest in yourself. So no matter what happens, I don't regret the money that I've put into the business. And then I think the third thing is I invested in a good bookkeeper. Yeah. Get a good bookkeeper, because as much as I'm like financially savvy, I came from a finance background. I'm very good with spreadsheets. But certainly you do need to have somebody there going, why are you spending money on that? What's that? And you're keeping you in check.
Sort of financial control, aren't you?
A little bit of financial control. So I think that's definitely been a good investment in terms of the business. So those are my 3s, I think.
They're fantastic 3s and really helpful. 2 things you wish you could have done differently.
I think I wish I'd spent more time thinking about exit or why I was doing the business. And I know we talked about this earlier, is that somebody very wisely told me when I had this idea and it was all roses and big dreams and unicorns and great and I come from a world where you build a business and it becomes $1 billion in 5 years and you're like, amazing, like I've built this big unicorn. Yeah. And somebody came out and said, why is it going to be a lifestyle brand? Are you going to get investment? Are you building it to be the next unicorn or not? And I was like, well, that seems like a silly question. Of course I want it to be big. I want to sell as much as I possibly can. And I'm like, yeah, but I think the way you build your business does vary a lot by thinking about what kind of business it is. Is it a lifestyle business? Is it not? And I think really I wish I'd thought about that a lot earlier and took it a lot more seriously, because I think some of the kind of pivots have been around the fact that, is it going to be slow? Is it going to be a big investment drive? So I think knowing that very early on is quite important.
Yeah. And are you saying that because you've just come out of an investment phase?
Yes.
You just come out of third round of investment, haven't you? So is that because it would have been good? Have those been questions that people have asked you?
I think for certain, now now it's pretty clear to me because I'm on my third round of investment. But certainly in the early days when I didn't have outside investment, it was a question that I got asked. Are you going to take investment? If you're going to take investment, what's your exit plan? And I'm like, not having an idea about what that is, I think is, you need to be very you need to be clear about that, because I think it does form how you build the business.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes complete sense. It's a really sensible thing.
Exactly. So I think that's something that I wish I'd looked at earlier. And I think I wish I'd started my business earlier.
You are not alone in so many people have said that to me, because it's chicken and egg. Would you have done it earlier if you hadn't have had this opportunity where you'd come out of that startup and you were in that kind of transition phase? If that had been 10 years earlier, you may have done this, right? But we are propelled by circumstance, aren't we?
You're absolutely right. And hindsight's 2020. And in reality, would I have done it? No, probably not. I had a brilliant time at Burberry, and I wouldn't have imagined leaving any earlier to start a business. So actually, probably not. But I do think that I was held back a lot by this kind of fear, and the fear of failure, I would say. And once I'd kind of saw the light, let's say, I was a little bit like, why hadn't I not seen the light 5 years earlier? So I wish I'd done it earlier, but only to give myself more. I've got a lot of runway left in my life, but just honestly more just because the learning has been phenomenal. I think really I've learned way more than I did the previous 5 years. So why did I stall that?
One person you'd like to thank. I always say ideally not your family, because I think we all appreciate our families enormously, particularly when we're doing these kind of things. But one person you'd like to thank.
One person I'd like to thank, I'm going to make him listen to this, is one of our board directors, James Eden. He was one of our early investors, and he's an angel, doesn't know anything about retail whatsoever. Is a man, not a woman, but he was one of my early backers, and he is somebody who has been extremely supportive and has helped me through a lot of my fundraisers, and is somebody who I think is extremely good at being honest about things and saying, look, this is what I think you should do. And everybody needs to have somebody that's going to challenge them and tell them that somebody you trust and has got your back. And he's one of my investors. Of course, he's got my back. He cares about the business. He cares about what I'm doing. He succeeds if I succeed. So I think having someone like that is invaluable. And so I really want to thank him, because he's been amazing, and particularly because we just had a fundraising round and he's just been phenomenal in helping me through that. So
that's so great.
Yeah.
Actually, you bring up a really good point there around having a board. It is a really powerful backup, isn't it, to have those experts slightly sitting on the outside who are invested in what you're doing, who can give you that kind of advice. That's great.
I agree. I think you need responsibility. It goes back to that kind of financial control. You want a team of people that can almost hold you accountable. You need that accountability, and you should be accountable. You've got investors now, right? So you should be accountable to them. So I think it's really good to have that structure, but I think that having people with you that are in it as much as you are, I think is quite important, because they then are motivated with you. And like I said, they succeed when you succeed, they fail when you fail. They're going to be honest and true to that. And I think it's amazing to have somebody who's a man, who's not in the bra business, who's such a big advocate, who's going out there telling us. He's been somebody that's told all his wife's friends, and his wife and his daughter are big fans of the brand. And I think it's great to have that, in a man. And I think it puts a lot of faith in, a lot of women go, oh God, I wish there's more women investors out there. And I'm like, I wish there was. I really wish there was. I'd love to see more women on my cap table, and there are some great ones, but actually it's just amazing to have a man that kind of really believes in what you're doing.
I think that's fantastic. No, it's a really inspiring story, and it just goes to show that we can all work together really well if there's a shared desire for success, or a shared love of the vision, or a shared value. And what you're doing is really important, because you're not only doing something that is sustainable and allows us to have choices that we really need out there in a sea of mass-produced products. It's great to have other choices out there, but that also that you have a vision. And I'm really excited about what this next round will bring for you, and hopefully an expansion of what you're doing, and at some point in the future, the exit. I'll be watching very closely.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy to speak to you.
Thank you so much for being on the Midlife Entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into the show. And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to click follow on your favourite podcast platform and leave a review. It really helps us reach more listeners just like you. Finally, if you're a midlife entrepreneur with an interesting story to share or would like to nominate a guest, you can do so via my email. It's inquiries@joglynnsmith.com. All information will be in the show notes. See you next time.